Hello everyone! In this video, we are going to discuss the future of Ark, as well as thoughts and concerns on creatures, maps, and the current state of the game. Alright, let's start off by talking about the creatures. We have 7 new creatures that have been introduced in Ark Survival Ascended so far. We've started the Gigantoraptor, the Oasisaur, the Fasolasuchus, the Ceratosaurus, the Xiphactinus, the Shastasaurus, and the pyromane. Now, there are 4 different categories of creatures that we have seen. We have seen the community-voted creatures, which was the Gigantoraptor, the Fasolasuchus, and the Shastasaurus. Then we have the Bob's Tall Tales DLC creatures, which currently has the Oasisaur. Then we have the Ark modded creatures from Grogu123 being introduced into the base game. Currently, that's the Ceratosaurus and the Xiphactinus. And lastly, we have the Ark Fantastic Tames paid DLC, which has the pyromane. Now, let's talk about the future of all creatures in general. So we know that we are expected to get 1 new community creature for both abberation and extinction. Also, the Gigantoraptor was supposed to be released for Ragnarok, but we got them early. So as of now, there has not been any mention about whether or not we will get another creature for Ragnarok. Now, I would suspect, since the Bob's Tall Tales DLC gives you content for abberation and extinction, we will also be seeing 1 new creature for each map that will come as part of that DLC. We also know that a lot of creatures from the Ark Editions mod will be coming as time goes on. However, we don't really have a date for those creatures at this time. It does seem, though, since these creatures are part of the base game, that we can expect to see them often. Currently, the Ceratosaurus is on all 3 existing ASA maps, and the Xiphactinus has been on both maps that have an ocean. Now, when it comes to the Ark Fantastic Tames mod creatures, the mod literally says Tames, implying more than 1. I believe this is where they'll be adding more creatures in general. We will get the community-voted creatures and the Bob's Tall Tales DLC creatures for abberation and extinction. However, for every non-story map, I feel like there will be a new creature released in this DLC form. Like I mentioned, the Gigantoraptor was already added, as was the Shastasaurus, so currently there is no longer any non-story map that's had a community-voted creature that is not already in the game. Now, all the creatures that have been added into ASA have had a unique taming method except for the Xiphactinus. Now, based on a poll I did with all of my subscribers, or any of you who contributed to that poll earlier in the week, most of you actually prefer knockout tames, be it the run-and-gun knockout tames or trapping/bola knockout tames. However, there was still some desire for some unique taming methods and some passing taming methods as well. But based on the trend we have seen, we can expect for new creatures we will most likely be seeing unique taming methods. Now, this is both good and bad, as new taming methods do a lot. They make it so veterans of the game have something new to learn, it's something fresh, and it can just simply add to the game. That's as long as the taming methods actually make sense and they're not overly complicated at making it more frustrating than it is enjoyable. The bad part to this, though, is that it sets a precedent. It means that all previous creatures in the game don't have anything new. You tame most older creatures with a knockout tame or a passive tame, and then all the new ones will have a unique method. Now, I don't think knockout tames are bad. I actually prefer them. They're fun, especially when you run and gun, or you get creative with the traps that you build. But I do feel like there needs to be a fine balance. Basically, there's just a spotlight and expectation of new creatures and how you acquire them, meaning it has to be something new and fresh. So I believe that, honestly, a lot of the older creatures actually need to be revisited. Maybe some for taming methods and others for abilities. As nearly every new creature that has been added in ASA has multiple abilities, and then we still have creatures like a Rex that just bites, is only used as a boss dino, or creatures like the saber-toothed tiger that are far underutilized because of creatures like the direwolf. I mean, even a Parasaur, the creature that you can get almost as soon as you start the game, has a unique ability to detect enemies. It's not extremely useful, really it's only used in the early game and maybe for finding a phoenix on Scorched Earth, but it's something. So some of the older creatures definitely need to get some love. Now, I know the big focus is just re-releasing all this content, but if some of the existing content doesn't get modified soon, eventually it's going to be too late. I mean, if they wait until they release every DLC and then decide they want to do the TLCs for creatures, that's just too long. A lot of the players will have moved on to other games or revisiting, older content. Existing content needs to have more to it, and that doesn't always mean something brand new. It could simply just mean better, improve upon what's already there, and give us a reason to tame a creature in the game that's hardly ever used, and don't just release a creature that makes old ones obsolete. Alright, well that wraps it up for the creatures. Let's talk about the roadmap that was laid out for us. But prior to that, if you are enjoying the video, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing if you're not already. Alright, so the roadmap has been changed many times, but I think it's best we look at the one that was originally given to us. Before we have a discussion about this timeline, though, it's important to note that this timeline should be getting updated on a regular basis, at least with the release of every new map. This could potentially mitigate a lot of possible future delays and frustrations from the community. If you look back at the beginning of Ark Survival Ascended, the release date we were initially given was in August of 2023. However, the game released 2 months later in October of 2023. That release ended up only being for PC, and then ASA was released on the Xbox on November 21st, and then November 30th for the PlayStation. So if we consider the full release of Ark being November across all platforms, then the game was technically delayed by nearly 3 months from August to November. Now there has been a lot of concerns with constant delays with Ark, but let's remember 3 months was the initial delay that we saw. Then unexpectedly, they said the center was going to be releasing early, and that would begin the Gigantoraptor as well, as the Shastasaurus was not ready. However, we then saw the center get delayed, and the Gigantoraptor was actually introduced into ASA through being on the island map. Then we saw a 1 month delay with Scorched Earth, and then another 1 month delay with the center as well, and then just 1 extra day for the center. So ASA has definitely had a rocky start to releasing content based on their initial expectations that were set with the community. Between not launching on all platforms at once and then announcing a new map to be released super early, there has definitely been some opportunities with overpromising and under-delivering. Now, I truly believe there is a simple fix for all of this. Communication. We saw that Scorched Earth and the Center were both delayed by 1 month. This was most likely caused due to the extended time it took to release the initial island map across all 3 platforms. I truly believe that if they just revised this timeline because of the initial delays that they had and the ones that we already saw, then they wouldn't feel so rushed to put out a product and to meet these previous deadlines. It is okay to revise based on something that has already happened. Yes, we are all hungry for more content. Yes, we all want more maps. Yes, we want more creatures. Yes, we as consumers want more. You know what we don't want? We don't want to be let down. We don't want to be disappointed. It is a video game after all. We just want to have fun. Going forward, this timeline absolutely needs to get adjusted, or I believe that we will see roughly a 1 month delay on all maps. If you look at the most recent release with the center, there is an area of the map by the redwoods that is virtually empty of detail at the bottom of the ocean, and there's a spot in the underground area that is marked as a kill zone, and the moment you fly through it, both you and your creature get immediately killed. Things like this could be revised and changed if they just gave themselves more time and didn't feel rushed. Improve upon what is already there, and don't just put out a product. Now, to add on to all of the previous delays, Wildcard are now experimenting with the newest version of Unreal 5 engine and plan to introduce some of its newest features into the existing content that we have in ASA. Now, at this point, we don't know what that's going to do to the current state of the game. On a technical standpoint, it should just bring improvements, but it has already been stated it is a learning process from their team, which means as a player, we can expect some hiccups along the way. This should be another reason for the communication and possible future delays. If you told me that it would take 2 more weeks than what was initially expected to release a new map, or even a month, I would be okay with that if that meant that I would no longer receive screen tearing the way that I do, or feel like I have a rundown version of the game where I can't ever hit 60 FPS. I would be a happy customer if I was told those problems would be resolved with just a little bit more time and polish. I am currently sitting around 30 to 40 FPS even with fully optimized settings, and the game truly only looks amazing when I'm playing like you see now in the footage behind you, where the HUD is turned off and I'm taking things slow. I left the clouds on for the cinematic feel, but if I was actually playing moving around much faster, both the clouds and the fog would need to be disabled in order to just get a decent performance. Alright, now let's talk about what's to come. There has been zero mention of Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2, as well as the non-story maps Valguerrero, Crystal Isles, Lost Island, and please, I'm going to screw this next one up, Fjordjord, as well as the surprise that we're all expected to get in November, but let's start with Ragnarok. Here is how I see this playing out. Again, I believe everything is going to get delayed by about 1 month based on the roadmap we were previously discussing. This means that Ragnarok will actually come out in October, which means technically it would be Ark Survival Ascended's first yearly anniversary. And knowing that Ragnarok is one of the most popular Ark maps ever made, I would expect this to come with some interesting surprises if that's how things end up. Now, that would also mean that the surprise targeted for a November release would most likely release around Christmas time. Again, another great time to release things for us as consumers, and of course it helped them promote the game to new players. We also know that physical editions of the game for the console are launching in the next few weeks, so we can expect they'll probably release some sort of special promo or deal with this big surprise around Christmas time. Now, like I said before, we know nothing about any of the maps that are scheduled for release of 2025. Now, Valguerero does say it's going to release in December of 2024, but if we stick with the 1 month delay that I've been talking about, we're just going to assume it's in 2025. which means there are 6 maps in total that release in 2025. 2 story and 4 non-story maps that we have absolutely no info on. I would expect we will see new DLCs though for these maps. I think the Fantastic Tames will be a continuing trend for all non-story maps, as it provides them with some sort of stream of income, since all these maps that are included with the purchase of ASA are not bringing anything in for them. Now, I do think that Genesis Part 1 and Part 2, however, we will see a lot of revisions on. They brought missions to these maps, which is a great concept and overall an awesome new idea, especially with the currency in the shops and just giving us new reasons to do different things in Ark. But it did fall short on its execution, and the difficulty spike was insane, causing these 2 maps to be some of the most disliked and least played maps in Ark Survival Evolved. So I expect a lot of change here, and I don't think we'll be hearing anything about them anytime soon. What do you guys all think? Do you agree with everything that I've said so far, or do you disagree? Please let me know down in the comments below. Now, we've talked a lot about the future, but what about the present? Ark offers many different ways to play the game, and I approach the game with an analytical perspective with the intent to share something anytime I find something new. So if you enjoy this in-depth analysis of our content, then I am positive you want to watch this video here.